fellow Chicago Bears fans. Welcome to the Bears Den podcast. I'm Andy, and I'm joined by Todd, and I'm joined by Clarence. So today's podcast, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to talk about the draft at the very end, but we're going to talk about each other and what made us Chicago Bears fans. So, Clarence, I'll kick it off with you. What made you a Chicago Bears fan?
Well, I would just have to say, growing up, we didn't have, the way to watch all the Bear games and the different teams in other cities the way we do now. There was no direct TV or what have you. So, um, Walter Payton was my guy because I had never seen somebody run the ball the way he did, refusing to go out of bounds and instead of hitting somebody and actually having to be brought to the ground. So then along came the 85 Bears, which is, in my opinion, the greatest team that ever played. Um, and it was just fun to watch those guys. It was fun to see the football players out there in the cold, in the snow, in the rain without sleeves on and, just giving it their all. So it made me fall in love with this team. And here we are, some almost 40 years later. And I've been through a lot of disappointing seasons. So when you can be with somebody or something through the ups and the downs, and it seems to be more downs than ups, that you're in it. So that's definitely why I'm a Bear fan. I mean, I love this team, and I can't wait till we start winning.
Todd, same question to you. Why are you a Chicago Bears fan?
Well, I was kind of born into it. I did either of you guys ever live in Illinois? I don't think we've talked about this. Yeah, so
no, sir.
Well, I was born there. I lived there till I was about 12 or so. So it was, you could hear stories from the old guys, and I remember. I think I really started paying attention late 70s. Peyton was in his prime there, and the team was terrible, and had been for quite a while too. And they got real involved as the team got better, 82, 83 going into, the Super Bowl season. And then just, stayed with it since then. So, yeah, I'm kind of born into that. I lived most of my life in Florida, but the first dozen or so years up there, and it just becomes part of you.
Yeah. As for me, growing up in Northeast Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, I'm from Allentown. Yeah. I should be an Eagles fan because that's all it was Philadelphia, Philadelphia, Philadelphia. But for whatever reason, I'm a lot like Clarence. Walter Payton was my idol. He is the reason I am a Chicago Bears fan. He is my favorite Chicago Bear of all time. When I used to play tackle football in the yard with the kids, I would try to emulate his little leg sweeps or stutter steps, whatever you want to call it. Like, he was my guy. I had to have the kangaroo shoes when I was in grade school with a little zipper to keep the money, because at that time, kangaroo cleats, if you had kangaroo shoes, you were cool. And he was just my guy. And in the 85, 86 season, when they were just, like Clarence said, I think the greatest team ever. I would play that team against anybody today. And I'd feel pretty feel pretty good. I mean, that solidified me as a Bears fan. I mean, I still will watch that Super Bowl. I have it recorded, and I still will watch it from time to time. And like I said, Walter Payton is the reason I'm a Chicago's Bears fan to this day. I loved him. I love the team. I still wear his jerseys. I mean, he was my guy. He died way too young, but he was my guy.
Absolutely.
So Clarence, what is your worst memory of the Chicago Bears?
There's a few.
Before Clarence starts, let me tell you a little side story. The first time Chicago Clarence, I recognized or heard him, we were at a draft party at Wild Wing Cafe. Chicago Bears, with the third pick, select Mitchell Trubisky. And oh my God, I heard this guy, what? He grabs the table. I thought it was going over. I'm like, this guy is going to get thrown out. But that was my first memory of Clarence. So I'll let you continue, Clarence. Your worst memory. That's my best memory. That's my first memory of Clarence right there.
It's funny that you would say that, because that has got to be at the top of my list as my worst, I think hearing Mitchell Trubisky's name being called as the Bears selection, it was just a feeling at the pit of my stomach because it was such disbelief when you factor in giving up the 4 picks that we got to move up one spot to select him when he would have been there regardless,
Mhm.
and the capital that we wasted, and then looking at how far it set back our franchise because we picked the wrong guy.
Right.
I have never been so angry at being a fan of this team in my life. And as I said, I've been a fan of this team for 40 plus years.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget how how I felt that night.
Yes,
I've been mad sometimes, but I think that's probably the maddest I have ever been being a fan of this team.
I remember it well. I
Yeah,
remember that well.
it's a
Todd,
little interesting because
same
you
question.
actually
You, what's
being,
your worst memory?
yeah, we'll follow up on Clarence for a second. You being a fan of Carolina sports, and I'm sure watched Carolina football, you knew more about Trubisky than any of us by a long shot. And all I knew was, what the draft shows talk about and hype and all that. So for you not to be on board with that, being a Tar Heel fan is that speaks a lot. So, there's been a lot of disappointment. The coaching decisions, the management decisions have been bad. But that obviously with Mitch and that playoff game, the double doing thing. That's the most recent thing that everybody talks about, at least pre-Justin stuff. And there's no real Justin thing that stands out other than when I cringe about that, I think about that Browns game that I think you were at, Andy, right? Where
Yes,
I
I
think he
was.
was sacked 9 times. Like they just threw
Yes,
wolves in that game. So, but I don't know. I think, there's the Lovie Smith stuff, whether he should have been fired, and then some of the coaching decisions after that. There's a lot of things. But and then if you want to go way back, a team that could have won more. I mean, we talked about 85.
yes, I agree.
If they'd have brought in an established backup that they could have done for next to nothing, but you've got to bring in a guy like Doug Flutie, or you got to make these big swings at stuff where, just give me. I mean, I think, and he was past his prime, but was a great. I think Warren Moon was readily available if they wanted to make a trade for him, and he could have taken this team to another Super Bowl. He could have, and it's just. So there's a lot of disappointments from that standpoint, but I guess we'll just go with the double doink thing, right? Because that's easy.
And to pick up off of you before you say something, Andy, you're right. With this team, there has been a lot of disappointments, a lot of puzzling decisions, that was just very easy to infuriate fans like us.
Mm-hmm.
I think about was it 2009? Was it 2009, 2005 when we went to the Super Bowl in
Mm-hmm.
Miami?
Yeah,
And we decided to go back to Grossman instead of letting Orton play when he
Right.
was like 8-1, and had the chemistry and the team rallying behind him, and we decided to put Grossman back in there, and we all saw what happened, and the exchanging of the running backs, the game plan, all of it was just so flawed looking back at that team, that could have and should have won that game, because we are starved for winning. I
Yeah.
mean, we deserve better than what the Bears has given us. And as I look at it year after year, we come around with hope, um, and as to some kind of resemblance of somebody in that office knowing what they're doing. Um, I like to think that we finally have that. There's been
yeah,
some decisions that's been made that's not really been popular with a lot of us fans, but I think that if we really sit down and we dissect the decisions that's being made, number one, Fields being traded, I think that even though we can find some fault with what we got back for him, in the
Mm-hmm.
grand scheme of things, it was really the right thing to do.
Yeah, it would have been the right thing
yeah.
to do 3 weeks ahead of time when we could have got substantially more for him. It just seemed like every backup and nobody quarterback were flying off the board every day that dragged on. That was so crazy.
I think everybody knew. I think everybody knew the hand we were going to play.
Yeah.
And that brought down his value. Everybody knew we were going to move on from him. So everybody's opinion was probably, why give up the farm when we can get him for a lot less? But go ahead.
I'm pretty happy. I mean, I'm not happy with the compensation by any stretch, but I think he's in a good place. He seems like a good kid. He seems like a smart kid. He's, this hero ball stuff, that we're getting that with Caleb too, but there's a little bit of that. But he has so much talent, and he's going under a solid coaching staff, and a solid front office organization. So I'm happy for him. I mean, I think he beats out Russ pretty easy, but we'll see. But I think he's probably their long-term answer.
I think so too.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think Fields is going to play in Pittsburgh. So if they don't play him, what was the point of drafting him? Because they have to figure out if they're going to pick up the 5th-year option on him. So what?
I've heard they said that it wasn't.
Yeah, so you can't figure that out by. But my worst memories as a Bears fan are the 2 losses to Philadelphia, the Fog Bowl and the Double Doink. I still got to hear about those losses from my friends in Pennsylvania to this day. Still going to hear about them. And the Fog Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, Buddy Ryan was the coach, was he not?
He was.
Yeah, he took. So we lost to our defensive coordinator. So that's my worst memory. So leads me to my next question. What's your most favorite memory of the Bears to this day, Clarence?
Well, I mean, as corny as this is going to sound, is winning the Super Bowl in 1985. I mean, there is nothing else. There is no other highlight. Every other memory after that has been filled with disappointment. There are times when we played and we were the better team and we lost. I can remember Walter Payton's last game. The playoff loss to Washington when we went up in halftime up 14-0. I can remember the game against Green Bay when I can't remember the guy for the Packers that came in and slammed McMahon down to the ground, effectively ending our chances of repeating that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Champs. The moment that he injured him.
Yeah.
So my fondest memory is the 85 Bears, and that's the reason why I think that we're so passionate, because we are starving for a winner. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs has been every bit as bad as we have been over the years, and look at them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a long stretch where the Chiefs were always solid but could never get over the hump. But, that's you make the right call at quarterback, and that's what happens. Charles Martin was the Packer. That was
and that is the reason to this day that I hate the Green Bay Packers, because of that one play. That to me was one of the dirtiest plays I've ever seen. Play clearly over, play is dead, and you sling them to the ground because you couldn't get to them any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the reason I hate that team to this day. So, Todd, what is your fondest memory of the Chicago Bears?
Well, that Super Bowl, it has to be that. I mean, there's been Hall of Fame stuff that's been good, and there's been, but nothing compares to that, obviously. So, I mean, we made it back. That was really, I mean, I know, that was my team, because I watched that every week. That was something I was involved in at that point. You guys were a little younger, so I mean, I appreciate that other team that made it to the Super Bowl, and defensively they had great players, but that's y'all's team a little more than it's mine. So, but
yeah, and I would have to agree with you guys. My fondest memory is also the Super Bowl team. I'll say that's what solidified me as a Bears fan for life, was that team, that season. And as Clarence said earlier, probably the greatest team ever. As I said before, I would feel comfortable against them on the field against anybody. So let's do a hypothetical here. Clarence was reading the article. We don't know if it's true or false. We're not saying if it's true or false. But the question is, what would it take for you to give up this draft pick and not draft Caleb Williams? What haul would you need in return? So, Clarence, I'll let you go first.
Well, if you'd asked me this question 2 months ago, my answer would be very different because we had Justin Fields.
Yes.
But now, we would be talking about, for me, I would need 2 first rounds, a second round, and a player.
Yeah.
And where would you want to end up in the draft? Because you still need a quarterback if you give up this pick. So where would you want to end up?
Well, unlike a lot of these so-called experts, a lot of them who had Mitch Trubisky rated over Deshaun Watson, I like Michael Penix. I think he is the most pure passer in this league, and that's even including Caleb Williams. He's not as athletic, but we have put such a premium on somebody being able to read defenses, make the right throw, make the right read, and do it from the pocket. Michael Penix does that better than anybody.
Only 2 seconds.
We can get him.
Yes.
Even if we trade it down, but then if you're talking about a trade and ended up somewhere, there's a scenario where we can get Marvin Harrison Jr. and we can get Michael Penix, because Michael Penix is going to be there at 9. So let's say, for instance, we traded down in this article with Washington, and at number 2 we picked Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yes.
And then at 9 we picked Michael Penix.
Right.
And in my world, if I'm general manager, I feel 100% confident making this trade. And we don't have to give up anything. And you're looking at 25 and 26, we're getting first round picks.
Yeah, from a team that's probably going to be pretty bad, because you draft at the top, you're usually a bad team, as we found out from the Carolina Panthers. Thank you.
We still got the Panthers' second round pick next year. So we're still set up even more going forward. And who's to say we need those first round picks in 25 or 20? We can trade down and further up, boost our capital going forward, and stand under the salary cap, because we can draft people to replace people that's about to get paid, and keep ourselves under the salary cap. So that would be probably what I would need. I still would like, if we did that trade with Washington, I still would like to have a defensive player, preferably somebody on the D line. I know we got Sweat, and they gave up Love, but Chase Young.
Yes.
I would want a defensive lineman though in this trade somehow.
So Todd, same question to you. What would it take for you to give up this draft pick and Caleb Williams, essentially? What haul would you need?
We talked about it a little bit towards the end of the season during the games, and I mean, this is all with Fields still on the roster. We talked about the quarterback needy teams that had a player and could also throw multiple firsts and stuff. And the Raiders came to mind, obviously. With Crosby, opposite on the defensive end.
Ooh,
that's not getting us into the top 5, because where did we say there? I think they're picking 12 or 13 or somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would take 2025 and 2026 and Crosby and 12. But that was assuming Fields was still on the roster. We didn't have to address that spot. So if that were the case, then I could probably, if I really wanted to move into 4, then I could package. I have so much capital then that I can package something up and get Marvin there. That was the one that made the mistake. Denver doesn't have anybody on the roster that I really want. I mean, their best player, I guess, is Surtain, the quarterback, but that's not really a need for us. It really had to be a pass rusher at this point. At least when the season ended. So that was what was intriguing to me. I didn't love falling back to 13, but that would have been the deal that I would have done, assuming we didn't have to get a quarterback.
Yeah, falling down that low in the draft. I mean, we're talking about some kind of package of comparable to what we got from the Panthers last year.
Right, exactly.
So go down that far.
The same thing. So I was looking at 2 1s and this year's 1 and 2 future ones, and Crosby, and they had said right out of the gate that he wasn't available. So the only other player, Adams, Devontae Adams, but he's
getting up there, and he's got a huge cap hit too.
Makes so much. Well, and so does Crosby, but I'd spend that money there. That would be fun.
Crosby would be worth it. A wide receiver at this point wouldn't be.
Yeah,
Crosby's still on his rookie contract, is he not? But he's still signing extension. But
it's time to pay him though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to now with what we spent. We'd have to do some restructure. But I mean, every team does some restructure. We haven't got to that yet. We're spending real dollars and not having dead cat because of it. But for that special player, then you have to do it. But today that I heard that you hear a bunch of garbage 2 weeks going in the draft, but Micah Parsons could be available. But you got to pay him, and he's going to be in the.
So let me ask you, hypothetically, would you trade for Micah Parsons, knowing you're going to fall way down now and you're not going to be able to draft Caleb Williams?
No, I'm not going to 24. No. I'm at
No.
receiver 5 or 6 at that point. I'm not.
Yeah.
No way.
No way would I.
And all of there's deep offensive linemen, but not at 25. I mean, then you're down to the end of it. So but I don't think there's anything at this point. I'm actually looking more to go from 9 to 5, but but we'll see.
Yeah, and I personally don't think we're going to move off of Caleb Williams. We haven't brought anybody else in that I've seen. I follow, ESPN Radio in the morning, and Cap and Hoodie and Sylvie, and it's all about Caleb Williams, and he's here to visit. He's working out. He's been at dinner. I haven't seen no other reports where, hey, Drake May was here. Hey, Jane Daniels. I haven't seen anything like that. So I do not think for 1 minute we're not going to draft Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So let's just talk about 9. What do we do? What would you want to see us do? Trade down, draft? Because we still need to fill out this roster. And this is a wide receiver deep. I'm actually leaning more towards we might trade down and take a defensive player.
I think it depends. If Atlanta goes defense, then we stand a pretty good shot at getting 1 or 2 or 3 guys. If Atlanta trades down, because if they're really looking for defense, they can trade down too. Because the 3 to 3, and then we've talked about this. The defensive linemen go from 8 to 19. And there's 3 that are going to fall in there if that's what they're looking for. So the only thing I'm concerned about is if they trade out of 8, it could be the team going really hard on like a Bo Nix or somebody or
Penix, like Clarence was saying, or Penix at 9.
Yeah, so that would be great for us too. Then if they squeeze another quarterback in the first 8 picks, there'd be 5 in theory then. So, but to me, it's Harrison and Alt or our neighbors, and then Odunze. But my head tells me go with Alt, but these wide receivers look great. So.
Yes, Clarence, what would you do at 9?
I got it in my head that we have the ability right now, assuming that they are correct with Caleb Williams and what he can do, that we can be the next version of the Kansas City Chiefs. Right. And if that's the case, then you go get Marvin Harrison at 9. Mm-hmm. You trade 9 and you trade second round pick from next year to try to move up to 9. I'm not giving up our first round, but if we can give up 9 and a second round pick to get up there to get Harrison, you do it. And then and the reason why I say this, because look at what our offense would be. Yeah. With 3 stud wide receivers, our defense right now is better than the Kansas City Chiefs defense on all 3 of their Super Bowl wins. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that concerns me is, as we talked about last week, what are we doing at end? Yeah. We got to get a pass rusher. Yeah. And that would be the only thing. But, the ability that we will have to put points on the board. Yeah. With a top 10 defense, I think is worth swinging for the fence to get Harrison, because what's old boy's age Allen right now? He's 32, 33?
Yeah. 31, I think. 31, 32.
He's probably got 2-3 years left in him. And then by that time, it'll be time to re-sign DJ Moore, but we still have our two bookends.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have a tight end that will still be under 30.
Yeah.
So our team is relatively young.
Yeah.
So why not go ahead on and swing for the fence, swing for Super Bowls right now to where we're a player within the next 3-4. No, I won't say within, we're a player for the next 3-4 years as a Super Bowl contender, and try to add to this defense in the offseason and or with picks that we have next year. I think that we can ride with it this year, depending on what cuts are, what other teams are cutting, and try to do some patchwork on that end. But if Sweat gets hurt, we're screwed.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. One last question before we end the show. We draft Caleb Williams. He gets a 5-year contract, rookie contract. Do we put a Lombardi trophy in our trophy case on his 5-year deal in his rookie contract? Todd, I'll let you go first, and Clarence, I'll let you sign us out. Have last word.
Well, I'm going to extend you to 7 years because you can franchise him, so you technically control him for 7. So in 7 years, I think so. I mean, he's our best. Look, coming into the room, he's the most talented quarterback we've ever had. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, there's no question. We have been god awful at quarterback. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but we've been pretty bad. Yeah. So, but I think so. I think if there's any way they can pull off moving from 9 to 4 or 9 to 5, I mean, I see Harrison and his dad was. I mean, he's not potentially great. He's a potential Hall of Famer. He really is. And I mean, he could fall apart, but and he might. There's never any evidence that there's a character issue or anything like that. It just seems as solid as you can get. And when I was looking at these the compensation charts from going from 5 to 9, and it's going to be twice this just because of who the player is. But even at twice, you make the trade, and you make that happen. So, and you're going to have a $30 million receiver for cheap for 5 years too. Now we got to re-sign both of those guys at the same time. That creates a problem down the road, but that's way down the road. So,
Clarence, same question. I'll let you sign us out. We draft Caleb Williams, number 1. Do we put a Lombardi trophy in our trophy case with him as our quarterback?
I would have to say would it be better.
I agree with that 100%.
Because what we did this offseason, Justin Fields was a fan favorite. And if we let him go and he goes and he balls out someplace else and we still don't sniff a Super Bowl, this fan base is going to be up in arms, and justifiably so, because we rolled the dice on Caleb Williams. He better be exactly what they say he is. And the pieces are around him. The defense is there. There's no excuse.
Okay, Clarence, I'll let you have the last word. Go ahead and take us home. Say whatever you want.
What I'm going to say is this, and I'm just going to piggyback on what I just said. For me as a fan, my expectation is we have got to go to the playoffs. We have got to see steady progress in this team. I don't give a damn that Caleb Williams is a rookie. We need to be in the playoffs because guess what? The Green Bay Packers ain't going nowhere. That's a well-ran franchise. They are well coached. They seem to make good decisions no matter what the position is. And every year they're playing in the NFC Championship game and we're sitting at home on the couch. I am sick of it. We got rid of a quarterback that I wanted to keep. There are things that we could have done to set this franchise up for the future. We decided to do something different, and we had better damn well be playing in the playoffs next year.
Okay, guys.
Hell has no fury. Now that we're on this platform, you will see me every week raising hell.
All right, guys. So next time, bear down.